Hey guys, hello. We're live. Okay, we're live everywhere. Hi guys, how is it going? Rita here. I'm really excited about this live today because we're going to be talking about negative emotions and why staying in them longer than you need to really is not helpful to you, and it really can hurt you and hurt everyone around you. And the reason why I picked this particular theme is because we can get really attached to our negative feelings. And I know through my own work, um, sorry, distracted there. Through my own work and those of my clients, one of the biggest obstacles for people to change how they feel in a more lasting way is realizing that staying in that emotion is not helping you. So this is not to say that having negative emotions is bad. It's not at all. And I'm going to explain the function of negative emotions. But the question I have for you is, do you ever feel angry, afraid, jealous, or overwhelmed? That's totally human. We all have those feelings. But how long do those negative emotions last for you? Is it seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks? And how do they affect how you see your world? In other words, just before I did this live, I got a bill, a medical bill that seemed to be charging me more than I wanted for a service that I thought I already paid for. And I could feel the frustration come up. I could feel the confusion come up. I could feel the anger come up. And I could feel myself wanting to cling to that because I felt very righteous. So I did some research and I called up the place, the billing people, and they explained that one charge was for the service, and the other was for the reading of the test. One was for the test itself, and then I was being charged for the person who interprets the results of the test. And I felt very frustrated about that because that was not very clear in the bill. So I had to look that up, and I just felt taken advantage of. I felt like it was overkill. I felt like, a lot of things about all of that stuff. And at one point, I even told my husband, I said, I want you to stand there and just allow me to vent a little about this. And he's very sympathetic, thankfully. And I said, okay, that's what I thank you for holding space for me. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to be talking about negative emotions and not hanging on to them. So I need to do something to let this go. So thank gosh, sometimes I think, to all the coaches out there, we need the work just as much as our clients do. We need to be reminded of this. So it's not that we don't feel these emotions. They happen, and they happen for a reason, but do you cling to the emotions? And how long do you cling to them, and why? And so this is my 4 reasons, my argument, if you will, for why clinging to them is not helpful to you. Okay, so what I would love for you to do, for anyone who is joining us live, just put your questions in the comments section. I will be checking them throughout this video. And if you, let me see. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will be answering them. I'll answer them all this week. So just let me know how that goes. Sorry, I just realized that the Facebook group just went live. I thought it was live before. So anyway, we're talking about negative emotions. We're talking about why they are part of being alive, and yet hanging on to them, clinging to them, reinforcing them is not helpful to us. So if you have any questions, if you're joining me live, please ask questions. Let me know that you're here. You can just say hi, or you can say, yeah, I just felt angry before. And I was just telling a story about how I felt frustrated and angry and confused by getting a medical bill that I thought I already paid, and realizing that it was for another aspect of the service, which also I felt I had feelings about. But anyway, I realized that I had to let it go and move on. And I don't make changes, or it doesn't mean I don't take actions for things. It just means I don't allow the emotion to sit with me and cause any more harm than it needs to. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comment sections, like I said. And I'm going to be going forward with what are the 4 reasons? And there are more than 4 reasons, but these 4 reasons I felt were maybe the top 4 reasons for why holding on to your negative emotions is not helpful. Okay. So the first reason is that holding on to your negative emotions is like keeping your hand on a hot stove. So I got this metaphor or analogy from Positive Intelligence. So I want to give them credit. It's a great program. Positive Intelligence is a book. It's a program. And they show you how to use mindfulness and other techniques to regulate your system and help you to stay in a centered place. And one of the things they talk about is how negative emotions are like putting your hand on a hot stove. So for most of us, if you put your hand on a hot stove, you immediately take your hand off because it hurts, right? You get an immediate feedback through your nervous system that this, and it's there for a reason, because if you keep your hand on the hot stove, you're going to burn it. And so our bodies are brilliantly designed so that when we experience pain, we want to recoil from it so that it doesn't hurt us anymore. So what I want to say is, it's interesting that when we have an emotion, even though it's like putting your hand on a hot stove, so much of the time we keep our hand on that hot stove. And in fact, we feel the emotion and then we replay the event or the relationship or the situation or the medical bill, whatever it is. We replay that in our mind and we keep having the emotion, and it's like putting your hand on a hot stove. So the reason why it's like a hot stove is because the negative emotions are there to get your attention. There to get your attention. Something's going on. You need to pay attention to something. Okay? So that's good. It's good information. You need to pay attention to something, whether you're angry, frustrated, jealous, whatever. It's not just to play throughout our mind. So when you sit there and you replay and you get angry all over again, you're hurting yourself. And when you do that chronically, if you go through your day or your week chronically in that state of anger or jealousy or frustration or even irritation, long term, you can cause physical damage to yourself. They've done a lot of research, and people are a lot more knowledgeable now about the mind-body connection. And you literally can make yourself sick if you're in a chronic state of intense negative emotion, because it actually causes different hormones to be released in your body, adrenaline, cortisol, things like that. And chronic levels of those can really cause damage. I know for myself, I've gotten colds, stomach aches, weird like pains in my body, inflammation that has to do with held on emotions. A lot of times it's fear related. So that for me, that's a big one. And so I've had to do a lot of work with letting go of fear. But whatever it is for you, just know that you could be literally making yourself sick. And by the way, when you get sick, notice maybe how you've been feeling emotionally. It doesn't mean that you don't go to a doctor and get yourself checked out, but it's just like, what's going on emotionally that can lower your immune system or cause inflammation in your body. So the first reason is it's like keeping your hand on a hot stove, and it can cause damage to your body, whether it's low energy, chronic conditions, disease, lowered immunity. So that's reason number 1. And let me know in any comments. Okay, no comments so far. Okay, number 2. The second reason why holding on to your negative emotions is hurting you and perhaps the people around you is that when you hold on to negative emotions, you can turn it into an identity. So in other words, instead of just feeling angry, you become an angry person. We all know people like this, right? We all know the angry person, the jealous person, the fearful person. They have chronic negative emotions. They're always looking for the problem. And then their identity becomes around the emotion. We are not our emotions, but sometimes we think we are, and we become the blank emotion person. Okay, so when we stay with negative emotions through going over that story over and over and over again, we start to not see other ways of responding. It becomes our go-to way to respond. So everything becomes something to be angry about. Everything becomes something to be jealous about. Everything becomes something to be frustrated or irritated about. And by the way, we all do it on some level. I catch myself doing it. All of a sudden, everything in my day is frustrating me, right? Or I have always have something irritating to talk about. I see it in, my social life and my everyday life. And one of the things that I've really been working on this year is catching myself in those modes and going, why am I going in that direction? Why do I need to tell that story? Why do I need to be outraged about something? When you have a very narrow set of responses for something that are not helpful to you, that's a sign that you're holding on to negative emotions. Okay. And the example that you could use in here is if you are a person who got betrayed, or someone did something that caused mistrust, then you become no one is trustworthy. Then it becomes you're the person who's always getting betrayed. So you have to be on guard to protect yourself, right? So instead of having an experience where someone did something where you felt betrayed, you held on to that experience to guard yourself, to protect yourself, and then no one is trustworthy. See how that works? It changes the way you look at the world. I must be on guard to protect myself because I'm the person that gets betrayed. So we start to create a world where we get it over and over and over again. Now, I'm not saying it's your fault, but I'm saying it's something to look at. If you're seeing that pattern over and over again, it could be that you're holding on to a negative emotion that is supported by limiting beliefs. Okay, that's number 2. Number three, when we stay in our story and we're repeating the negative emotion over and over and over again, we stop seeing solutions and we only see problems, which is kind of another way of saying the number 2, it makes your identity. You stop seeing solutions to problems. You just see the problem, only problems. So for an example, instead of developing trust in your own ability to recover from a relationship where someone was not trustworthy. So in other words, instead of going, okay, I need to start to become what happened in this last relationship that I got betrayed. I think I need to start looking for those warning signs and trust myself. We just start to label everyone else as not trustworthy. We make it a problem instead of a solution. So in other words, you're in a relationship where there's some betrayal, right? And instead of going, what's the solution to this? Maybe I need to become more aware and more trusting of myself so that I don't pick a person like this. You start to just see everyone is not trustworthy. That just creates more problems versus the solution. Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense in the comment section, if that feels good to you. Okay. So that's number 3. We stop seeing solutions and we only see problems. And all of the power goes on the outside. There's no power on the inside. All right, number 4 for why it's so important to not hang on to your negative emotions. Because when you hold on to your negative emotions, you become rigid in energy, focus, and belief, which is kind of another way to say 2 and 3, but I think there's some nuance here. When you hold on to negative emotion, you create a world where everyone is out for you. You are the victim of your life, and all you can do is try to avoid any uncomfortable emotions, ironically. So what you do is you hold on to your anger or your fear, and that creates a world where you feel like you have to constantly protect yourself. You have to make your world small. Everyone is out to get you so that you don't have to ever feel that way again. So that's the weird, like ironic thing about hanging on to negative emotions. When you hang on to negative emotions, it is a maladaptive attempt to guard you from negative emotions. But what it does, it just gives you the devil you know, which is everyone in this example, people will betray me, so I have to avoid all relationships, or I just have to watch out for the betrayal all the time. And so I never learn how to trust myself and build a relationship from there. Does that make sense? So in other words, the chronic negative emotion makes your world small and really dangerous, and it keeps you in low energy and only has you focus on what can go wrong instead of all the great things that can happen. And you do that to avoid feeling the pain of someone betraying you, for instance. So you become helpless because the world is filled with untrustworthy people, and I can't risk or be open. And when you do that, because you're trying to avoid being in pain, you just keep the pain anyway. It's just the pain that you choose versus the pain that you don't want to have. And what you lose from that is that you lose having great relationships. You lose embracing the world because you're capable of handling it. You lose attracting and being attracted to trustworthy people because you trust yourself. It really just brings you what you don't want, and you keep repeating it over and over when you hold on to that negative energy, when you hold on to that negative emotion. It doesn't protect you. It does the opposite. If any of these resonated with you, if you thought, wow, maybe it is time to let go of this negative emotion, there's really no good reason for me to hang on to it anymore, but I can't even imagine letting go of it, that's okay. I have solutions for you. So if you're ready to let go of the negative emotion, even though it kind of scares you at the same time, I just want you to know that I'm going to be hosting an event in my Facebook group. It's going to be on Zoom, so you'll be able to get access to it. It's going to be on May 5th at 1 p.m. Eastern. So put that in your calendar. I haven't named it yet, but it's going to be all about this. It's going to be all about how to let go of the negative emotions you've been hanging on to, even if you've been hanging on to them for decades, so that you can let them go and you can see life through a different lens, so that you have more energy, so that you have new solutions versus old problems, so that you have more flexibility, so that you can make new choices, so that you can build within yourself what you need to feel safe in the world and attract the kind of people that you want and have the kind of life you want to have, really, to have an easier life because you're not constantly looking out for what can go wrong. And you're not worrying about stuff all the time. That's a big one. So stay tuned for that May 5th, 1 p.m. Eastern event. I'll be posting the event soon in the Calm Mom Alliance Facebook group. So if you're not a part of my Facebook group, please join. It's called Calm Mom Alliance. I will put the link in the comments section There's so many things going on in this group. I can't even tell you. We do networking for people in business. I have an event every other week that's just about centering yourself. We do every Friday, we do a funny Friday. Come and laugh with us. Other people do events in the group as well. You get to meet all sorts of wonderful people. And I'm going to be doing this event about how to let go. I have special tools about allowing you to let go of those negative emotions that are not helping you anymore. So one more time, I'm just going to check for any comments. Okay, no comments. I just want to say that being a professional mom can be really hard. It can suck sometimes, frankly, but it also can be one of the best adventures of your life. And life gets way better when you befriend and believe in yourself, when you have a supportive community and you can laugh at what usually drives you crazy. And when you let go of negative emotion, you're going to laugh a lot more. And I only say this because I want you to remember that you're worth it. So I hope you have a great week. If you have any comments, any questions, please put in the comments sections. I'm going to be checking those throughout the week. And I hope to see you at my May 5th event. I'll be posting that today or tomorrow. And otherwise, have an amazing week. All right. Take care. Bye.